pure experiences.
Welcome to the Pure Experiences Podcasts.
Number 23, Child of a Barren Woman. Maharaj is extremely alert to ensure that in response to his invitation to ask questions, the visitors do not start a discussion amongst themselves and thus get entangled into an intricate web of their respective concepts, to the exclusion of the subject which he had been expounding. When there are signs of this happening, he is so very amused that he is wont to remark, now we are discussing details of the wedding ceremony of the child of a barren woman. Maharaj uses this simile of the child of a barren woman fairly frequently. One morning, a visitor who had perhaps heard of it for the first time was quite intrigued and requested him to illustrate it by an example. For a while, Maharaj remained silent with his eyes closed, without the least movement, his breathing as shallow as could be, and we thought he would go into a samadhi. But then he started talking in a low voice. Look, understand what time is. Unless you know the nature of time, you will not understand the nature of phenomena. What happens is that one takes time for granted and then proceeds to build all kinds of concepts. If you are going to build, should you not first see what your foundation is like? Time and space go together. Why are you able to cognize things? Because you see them. Would you have been able to see things if they had no form? You see things because they have form, volume, because they are extended into space. Let us go a step further. If things were seen in space for a split second only, would you be able to perceive them? You perceive things only because they are extended into space for a certain duration, time, and the forms remain long enough before you to enable you to perceive them. If there were no concepts of time and space themselves are obviously not objects, things would not be perceptible and things would not be things. If there were no space-time, no past, present and future, how could there have been any phenomena, any events? Please try to understand that both phenomena and time are merely concepts and have no existence of their own. Whatever things are seen or thought of are merely images conceived in consciousness, the supposed actuality of which is as real as a dream or a mirage. Now, do you understand what I mean when I say that all phenomenality is the child of a barren woman? This point about space-time, said Maharaj, is so difficult to grasp that even highly intelligent people are baffled and confounded at its complexity and are unable to comprehend its true significance. At this stage, he addressed a question to the visitors generally. Have the scientists ever gone deeply into the problem of the nature of space-time? There were various comments, but the consensus was that no scientist had really made a deep study of this problem, but that some of the topmost among them, including Einstein, had come to the conclusion that the entire universe is of the nature of thought, and they held that the nature of space-time is really incomprehensible since it crosses the borders of the mind and all human knowledge acquired so far. Maharaj laughed and said, how can the scientists do it with their puny minds? They may conceive unlimited space and unlimited time, but can they conceive the very absence of space and time? It is impossible, because that which conceives in its conception cannot conceive the conceiving. Would it be possible for the eye to see its own seeing? Can the fire burn itself? Can water understand thirst? If you can grasp the significance of what I have said, you will cease looking at things against the fixed background of time. You will cease searching for truth through the medium of your proud intellect. Indeed, you will realize that the very effort of searching is an obstruction, because the instrument with which you will be searching is a divided mind, a conceptual subject seeking a conceptual object. When you realize this, you will stop searching and let the impersonal consciousness take over. And then, when the impersonal consciousness lets you in on the mystery of its own source, you will know that there is no you or me, but only I, the essential subjectivity. The things have no substance, and therefore a phenomenon is the child of a barren woman. And finally, that I am intemporality, infinity. Here ends the number 23, child of a barren woman. And you must have noticed similarity with the Buddhist concept of emptiness. All phenomena are empty. There is no substance there, because they are projections of the consciousness which is non-substantial. Now the obvious question comes that, look, but there is time, there is space, and these things must exist a priori in order for the illusion of objects to appear in them. And now Maharaj totally destroys this foundation also, which is so dear to the materialistic science, that he says there is no space, there is no time. It is only an arrangement so that perception can happen. Or since perception happens, they arise as a byproduct of perception. It is not that there is a given space and there is a string of movements, time, and then the objects are placed in them. If you think like this, this is called naive realism. That means a naive person takes the reality as it is presented without looking into it. It is like a child mesmerized by the magician. He thinks that the rabbit comes out of the hat, or that the pigeons are coming out of the magic box. There is a causal effect there, which the cause is obviously coming from the wand of the magician. That is enough to satisfy the child. Those who know, they know that it's a trick, but the child does not know it. Even the most rational child in the world will not get it, because the mind is evolved to conclude from observation. It does not question the observation. The mind has evolved from logical and rational statements, true and false, out of observation only. If all you observe is time and space, then you will take them for granted. You may question the nature of space and time, but you will not question its existence, because it is right here in front of you. It is your own experience. So how to demolish this illusion of time and space without simply doing some kind of intellectual jugglery, like deriving mathematical equations and all? That is one way. That is a way to break the habit of the mind. That is what a scientist will do. And they already find that you can have a number of arrangements in which the objects can appear. There is no real necessity for space and time to be there, and specifically this one-dimension time and three-dimension space. No, it is not really necessary. Any kind of universe can arise in any kind of space at any kind of time. And this was the great achievement of Einstein, that he shook the foundation of physics by showing that, well, the space and time also are relative. They depend on many things. So it depends on how it is measured. And the special relativity will say that it is, this trick is because of the motion. Motion is primary. And speed of light is the limit on motion. It remains constant. So from that he derived the special theory of relativity. And that explained a lot of things, except the gravity and things like this. And then the general theory took a little bit of more demolishing, more destruction, and the space was demolished. It looks like that there is no such thing actually. There are only relativistic relations between objects which look like objects. So when you go deep into the objects also, you find no objects, you find no substance there. So how did these people, the spiritual masters, saw it without any mathematics, without any experiments and all? Well, you need to go to the root. You can do a little bit of science from the branches, but the root is mind. If you look at the mind, you will know all the answers, how it is being done. What is space, what is time, what are objects. You will see them all, because the creator of this illusion is the mind itself. We call it mind, but these are simply processes, the mental processes in consciousness. There is only change there, or information there. There is no substance. There is no background there for the information to be in. And this information is not extended in space and time. It is all here and now. Zero-dimensional, non-temporal. Subjectivity is all there. When you grasp this, everything else falls out of this last concept. And then you can demolish this concept, arrive at emptiness. You can see that all experience is created experience. So that's why it's necessary for a spiritual seeker to get hold of the mind, this strange animal, the mind, which itself is a concept, which itself is emptiness, which itself is a process. Once you get this, then the rest will be easy. Now, because of the naive realism, science or physics still stuck at external observation. They don't want to go to the root. They are afraid that it will be too much like spirituality and they will lose their position, their superiority over this mumbo jumbo. And they are right, actually. They should not go there, because it will again give rise to blind faith, which is a no-no in spiritual domain. So it happened a few times and then devolves into blind faith of some kind. People start worshipping things and then start killing each other, invading their lands and so on. So it becomes degraded very soon. So it is good that the study of Maya, the study of illusion, is kept separate from the illusion creator itself. You will find a trend in any kind of knowledge, any undertaking that looks like path of knowledge. And the trend is that the knowledge is destroyed gradually. There is a refinement of ignorance. And it is a subtractive process. Gaining knowledge is always subtractive. The physicist will come back to simpler and simpler and simpler ways of explaining things. So instead of 20 equations, if a physicist finds 2 equations to describe the same phenomena, it is considered as a great achievement. What has happened? Cleaning, trashing of those 80 equations is considered a big victory. When 3 models are replaced by a single model, it is a big achievement in science, because you got rid of something. You got rid of beliefs and models and theories. It is the characteristic of the path of knowledge, that you will be left with less and less and less. Ultimately, you will be left with emptiness. It is not nothing. It is emptiness. It is, like Maharaj says, there is no you and me. There are no objects, nothing there, but only I. The essential subjectivity is there. You can call it I, or you can call it anything you want. That is nothing but just language. But if you arrive at emptiness, you have arrived at the essence. That is the essential knowledge. You cannot do that at the level of intellect, because intellect is juggling concepts. You will need to see past the concepts. You need to check that which is creating the concepts. That is the key. Now I will skip to number 26. Life, a slapstick comedy. One evening a visitor started the talk with these words. Maharaj sometimes says that the entire manifestation is an illusion, like a movie or a stage play, and that Maharaj interrupted him with a laugh and said, "But It is not the usual purposeful movie. It is a hell of a comedy, a real slapstick. If you would only clearly see the whole thing as it really is. Look, here I am in my home, bothering no one, doing what comes to me naturally. Suppose one day a policeman suddenly appears at my doorstep and charges me with the assault and robbery in Calcutta on such and such a day. I tell him that I have never been out of my hometown, let alone being in Calcutta and taking part in an assault and robbery. The conviction with which I tell this to the policeman makes him a bit diffident. He conducts further inquiries and finds that what I said was true. He then apologizes to me and leaves me alone. This is as it should be. But here comes the comic part. You also face a similar charge. You also have never been to Calcutta, but you are so much overawed by the presence of the policeman that you are unable to speak in your defense, and you allow him to arrest you. Later, when you are behind the bars, you lament about your bondage and cry for liberation. Is this not ridiculous? In my original state of unicity and wholeness, I didn't even know that I existed. And then one day I was told that I was born, that a particular body was me, that a particular couple were my parents. Thereafter, I begin accepting further information about me, day after day, and thus built up a whole pseudo-personality only because I had accepted the charge of being born. Although I was fully aware that I had no experience of being born, that I had never agreed to be born, and that my body was being thrust on me. Gradually, the conditioning became stronger and stronger and grew to such an extent that not only did I accept the charge that I was born as a particular body, but that I would, at some future date, die. And the very word death became a dreaded word to me, signifying a traumatic event. Can anything be more ridiculous? By my Guru's grace, I realized my true nature and also realized what a huge joke had been played on me. The more startling illusion, therefore, is not so much the happening of an event known as birth, life, death, over a period of what is known as time, as is the acceptance of an objective entity which is supposed to undergo the experience of this conceptual event. And the basic illusion which makes this illusion possible is the concept of space, in which objects could be extended, and the concept of time, duration, in which the spatially extended objects could be perceived. Now, do you understand why I said that life is a slapstick comedy, a farce? Go a step further and see the extent to which your conceptual entity gets itself involved in this farce. You not only fail to see that you are merely an actor playing a role in this farce, but go on to assume that you have a choice of decision and action in the play called life, which must obviously unfold strictly according to the pre-written script. And when the events thus takes place naturally in the ordinary course, this conceptual entity that man is lets himself get affected by them and suffers. And then he thinks of bondage and liberation. Liberation is seeing the life as a farce and perceiving that you, the I without the slightest touch of objectivity, cannot be an entity of any shape, name or kind. Liberation is a perceiving that sentient objects are part of the manifestation of the total phenomena, without separate identities. That what I am is the sentience in all sentient objects, the conscious presence as much. Liberation is a perceiving that I, the Absolute, in my phenomenal expression, am the functioning, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, thinking, without the presence of any other individual actors. Now, do you understand why you suffer? Because you are a case of mistaken identity, or rather because you have accepted what is obviously a mistaken identity. Here ends number 26, Life as Slapstick Comedy. Somebody wants to know that why this life is like a movie. And the Maharaj wants to destroy that also. He says, not it is like a movie, but not really a movie. It is a movie which has no plot, which is a series of unfortunate events. It is a series of happenings. Why unfortunate? Because we take it as real. That is why. It is all conditioning. The birth, the life, the death, the events happening here are all concepts. So you can say it is a practical joke of some kind that has been imposed on this eye. It only looks like as if it is imposed because of our ignorance. Otherwise, it is a mad show that we are supposed to enjoy. But this cannot be digested. But look, I am not enjoying it. Even after you told me this is an illusion, it is like a very crazy movie. The director of this movie has died long ago. It is still going on. And look at this. It is suffering. I need to endure a considerable amount of suffering just to keep this body going. Just to have a roof on my head. Just to have dinner on my plate. Look at the people. Looks like somebody in lunatic asylum wrote their roles. Why do you call this a joke? I'm not enjoying it. And if you feel that this is suffering, that means that there is still some ignorance left. Probably you have some intellectual idea about why this can be an illusion, but it is not settled into your experience that it is indeed so. Now, the fun part is that even after you know it is an illusion, the character will keep on doing what it is doing. There is no escape from the illusion for this person, for this character, this pseudo-personality. It will do what it is conditioned to do. It will follow the script line by line. It is very perfect in doing that. So what can happen is by Guru's grace, you can realize your true nature and realize that this is a joke of some kind. Realize that you are already liberated, and then the liberation is liberation from the person. There is no other liberation. The liberation from the illusion of the person is all that is needed. The life can continue, the world can continue, this comical happening can continue. This madness with no plan is all there is, and so it can continue. Even after liberation, this cannot be stopped. So only you can remain aloof at your ultimate position, which is the I am, the absolute. And everything else is simply functioning of some kind. Maharaj says it is functioning, which means events happen, seeing, hearing, feeling, and all the bodily actions, they happen. This is what is happening. It is what is appearing at this moment. So it can all continue. So simply shift your identity from that which is suffering, that which is playing the role of the character, to that which is looking. Become the observer of this play. It is only one. There is only one observer for all of us, and it is the absolute. So the shift, which is the biggest shift for a human, will make the whole show as a not so entertaining but useless adventure of some kind. Number 28. You are timeless. One morning, as Maharaj climbed up the stairs of his loft room, he started talking even as he was taking his seat. A few visitors had already gathered, but he did not seem to take notice of them. Someone in the household had apparently complained to Maharaj about the unpunctuality of somebody who had failed to do something on time. So time became the subject of his talk. He began abruptly by observing that many people take time to be a thing, something apart from themselves, something through which they as individual entities must pass. This idea is totally erroneous. Addressing the people present, he said, "Your whole idea of time is that you were born in the past, that you are now in the present. Although strictly speaking, there is no present as such, because the present never stays still, and that you are growing older into the unknown future. Have you ever thought how fallacious this concept is? Is there really any past, present, future in the objective sense? The past has gone beyond recall, and the future you can know only when it has become present, past, and faded into a memory. It should be clear, therefore, that time does not have an objective existence in your lives, and that, therefore, it cannot be physically analyzed. Maharaj continued, how then are you concerned with time? You are concerned with time only insofar as it denotes duration, a span of measurement, a concept. Duration signifies temporality, which is the sine qua non of all phenomena, including all yous and me's. Thus, what you appear to be, what you are conditioned to think you are but are not, is temporal. But what you are as conscious presence, and the knower of this consciousness, is intemporality. The past is only a memory, and the future only a hope. It is only the present, the now, that means anything to us, as presence is what we are as intemporality. I wonder, Maharaj said, if you understand what I am saying. Do you grasp the significance of what I have said? In effect, what I have said is that you are time. What you think you are is duration, time. What you subjectively are is timeless. Does it startle you to be told that what you think you are is time? As a phenomenal object, are you not time? The river of time flowing from infancy to old age, from birth to death, from creation to destruction. Like any other manifested phenomenon, what you think you are, the psychosomatic apparatus, is always in movement, even in sleep moving towards waking, for the simple reason that consciousness, the nature of which is movement, will not let you be still. This constant doing becomes the infamous karma, only because of the identification with the physical form, whereby you assume the responsibility for apparent action and, of course, for the consequences also. Each such apparent action gets extended in space-time in order to become perceptible in manifestation and thereby becomes an event. The entire phenomenal world represents millions of yous, and the totality of all such action events of all the yous presents the world in action. The word birth should really refer to time, because if duration were not born, inseparable with space, manifestation and perception could not have taken place. You think you were born, but what was born was duration, in which you as an object have become perceptible. At the relative level, everything has to have an interrelated counterpart in order to have even a conceptual, if not objective, existence. But all such interrelated counterparts like light and darkness, knowledge and ignorance, good and bad, etc., eternally separate in conception, become inseparably reunited when superimposed in mutual negation. Also, the phenomenally conceived opposites, time and intemporality, become reunited in the mutual negation of the relative. That is wholeness, whole, soundness. It is this basic, essential unity which is the true perspective. Lose this perspective and you lose your balance and fall into the abyss of Maya. Whatever we may think or say about the intemporal absolute, concluded Maharaj, could only be conceptual, merely an indication, a pointer, which could never possibly reveal to us what intemporality is, because that is what we are. All we can say is, I am here and now, here being in the absence of space and now being in the absence of time. Even saying this is perhaps saying too much. It is not the saying nor the hearing that matters. What matters is the instant apperception of the fact. Here ends number 28, you are timeless. One thing that shows us how strong the Maya is, how convincing this illusion is, that every one of us does not experience time. Yet, we are totally convinced, we totally believe that there is such a thing as time. Why is that? Because most of us are not trained to use our intellect. Most of us are not logical. Most of us are not rational. We are monkeys. We are good at copying what others say and what others do. That's all we are. Most of us. When we are told that, look, you were born here and there, and now you're so many years old, and look, I am also like this, well, the monkey mind will simply copy this concept. And the thinking stops here, because everything that I need to know is already here. Why do I need to know anything more than that? This is truth. And this is the idea of truth for a common man. Actually, this is the same thing for a scientist and for a spiritual seeker also. We are not trained to look. We are trained to think. The concepts are shoved down our minds, and then we repeat them mindlessly. So how is it even possible that we do not experience the time? Because if you are trained to look through the eyes of direct experience, as we do on the path of knowledge, the only way to arrive at truth is direct experience. And if you simply throw away all your concepts and simply look, what you call past will be an experience of the memory, which is happening in present, right now, right here. What you call future will be some kind of imagination, again coming from the memory, extrapolation of the memory. It is also happening now in the present. There was never a time when time was experienced. Only these mental events were experienced, and they always happen in a timeless moment. And this timeless moment is all there is. This is my direct experience. This is what I observe. What do we believe? We believe this whole story of time. Just looking with an empty mind can give you all the knowledge that you need. It is not a knowledge of something. It is a destruction of your old beliefs. That is what will happen if you simply look without any filters, look without any dark glasses of concepts. Do not mindlessly copy what others are saying. All the instruments that you need to analyze the truth, to look at the truth, are here and now. You are given all these things. You are already possessing all those instruments to know. Why is that? Because everything is me. So that is all you need. You need the eye in order to know what is happening. You are already that. And dropping all these garbage concepts will reveal what I am. And it is revealed as a timeless, dimensionless presence, which it cannot explain in any other format. Because how can you explain something which is most fundamental in terms of something which is even more fundamental? Because something which is even more fundamental than the most fundamental does not obviously exist. You can explain the relative in terms of absolute. You can explain the complex in terms of simple. How can you explain that which is absolute and the simplest, as it is so simple that it is almost nothing? It is totally empty. It has no attributes. There is no space and time also there. Where will you even start explaining? The good news is you can be it, because that's what everybody is. So not only we do all this kind of jugglery to get involved into Maya, we also assume the role of a doer, which is responsible for whatever functioning is happening through this psychosomatic instrument. The mind will take responsibility of it. It is like a thread in which the beads of actions are being dropped. The thread is called karma. And we have this because we made this, because we are glued to this thread. Otherwise, it's not there. Otherwise, it is also a part of functioning. So liberation, here and now, will get rid of this whole chain of karmic stuff. So those of you who are thinking, okay, I got it. I'm this timeless, eternal presence, the absolute awareness, pure subjectivity. But look what I've done when I was ignorant. Now I'm going to get the fruits of it. Now you can obviously see that there is still ignorance here. The mind has jumped back into habit. It has already gone into the past. So just take another look. You will find that the actions were not yours. And the fruits also will not be yours. This is ultimate liberation now. There is nothing to be done now. That which did all these actions will suffer or will enjoy the fruits. Why should I worry? I, as the Absolute, it has no worries already. It simply looks, it simply watches. So it will watch this crazy play. It is what is happening. And it will happen in the most weird possible way.
Pure experiences.
You were listening to Pure Experiences by Tharun Pradhan.